know you heard me on the radio. Flexing, she loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. I know you heard me on the radio. Flexing, she loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K.
Post-game instant reaction to the St. Peter's game. That is what this is. If you guys are listening on the audio-only podcast, then come on over to YouTube. Just search Night Watch Larry K. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can check out my post games. They're pretty quick sometimes, and they're on the cell phone, so I just upload them right to YouTube. They don't always appear on the audio version. Sometimes I'll just sit down and record it, in which case it will. But hey, if you're listening out there anywhere except YouTube, visit the YouTube channel when you get a chance. Night Watch Larry K. Subscribe to the channel. If you're watching, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 1,000. We're inching. We're clawing our way there, kind of like Rutgers clawed its way to victory last night against St. Peter's. Rutgers now ranked 24, 2-0, and obviously in basketball, rankings matter much less until you get, more to the halfway point of the season. But it's still nice to be number 24. Escape at home from St. Peter's with a 75-65 victory. Just take a little bit of a deeper dive into it. Obviously, Ace Bailey has not played yet this season. He played in the exhibition game against St. John's, but he hasn't played yet this season. And you got to factor that into anything. But nonetheless, this team, top to bottom, is talented enough that it shouldn't be biting its nails too much. Or at least, I don't think the team was biting their nails, but us fans certainly were at points in that game. Look, St. Peter's gets out, and they just have a really good they're shooting from a really good clip from the outside and beyond the arc. And I thought it was pretty rough for us. They were 10 of 27 for three-pointers. That's 10 three-pointers. That's 30 points. That's a lot, man. There were times and stretches in that game where it seemed like anything they threw up was going to go in. And I'm not saying that to be condescending. I mean, they weren't throwing them up. They were good shooters. They knew where their shots were. They were able to get to their spot and shoot their shots. And they were draining them. Rutgers, contrarily, was 3 of 16 from beyond the arc, and that's got to improve. We invested in some serious shooters. PJ Hayes drained one, Martini drained one. We got to drain more of them. I believe Harper was the third to drain the 3. We've got to be able to shoot better from beyond the arc, especially when we're going up against teams that can do that. That was a trend last year, too, where teams would come in. If they couldn't bang with us in the lane and other areas, they would equalize the game by, shooting well from beyond the arc, and it's tough. When you can't stop a team from hitting threes, it's hard to pull away and get a comfortable lead ever, and that kind of happened in this game. St. Peter's, though, coming off a tournament team here, a lot of good athletes. They can run the floor, they can hit shots, they can drive, they have guys who can do a lot of different things all over the floor, so it was never going to be an easy out. We're going around the Jersey tour here, the tri-state tour. We had Wagner, then St. Peter's, and then Friday we've got Monmouth. So teams want to crack at Rutgers. Rutgers has a lot of preseason hype coming in for good reason. Teams want to take their best shot at Rutgers, and, there's nothing less. We shouldn't have expected anything less from St. Peter's. Field goal percentage, Rutgers was 48.2. St. Peter's was 40% from the field. So that was kind of close. And I thought that there were stretches in the game where St. Peter's couldn't find its shot. And they were struggling a little bit from beyond the arc and also couldn't get the ball to go when they tried to drive the lane and do other things. Total rebounds, Rutgers 38, St. Peter's 34. I thought that kind of evened out in the second half. I thought in the first half, St. Peter's was getting a lot of second chance points. They were getting boards from us. We weren't getting as many second chance points, and it was kind of the story. 11 offensive rebounds for St. Peter's, 9 for Rutgers. 29 defensive rebounds for Rutgers, 23 for St. Peter's. It was kind of closer, and we're seeing that trend. I think it's kind of trended closer as games have gone on, but you heard Pike and you heard the guys in the broadcast kind of say, we're going to need to rebound as a team effort. We don't necessarily have a dominant 5-player or even really a, stay in position kind of 4-player in a lot of rotations. Now, right now, you see what Pike does. This is what Pike likes to do. Early on in the season, he's subbing, whole lines of guys, kind of like hockey, like, 2 guys in for 3 guys out. And you have whole different lineups in there. And as the different lineups come in, you have guys moving to different spots on the floor. There were times Martini was down at the 5. You put Somerville at the 5. Aguale goes down to the 5. And guys move around. And depending what lineup's on the floor, that 5 is either more of a low post player like Aguale, or he's a, more variable player like a Somerville, and especially like a Martini. And we're going to have to rebound as a team. I thought it was pretty obvious and evident based on the eye test there. When we come out in the second half, everybody's got their hands up. Everybody's looking for position. Everybody is, looking up at the rim and the backboard when any shot goes up, and coming down with the ball with a lot of effort, and everybody on the team is doing it, right? Durkak, I thought, looked good doing that, and other guys. And I'll get to individual stats in a minute, but I thought guys were more worried about their positioning and more worried about finding the ball and coming down with the ball, and I thought it made a big difference. And that's going to have to be a consistent and constant effort with this team, right? This team doesn't have a Cliff Amori. This team doesn't have, a Johnson. This team is going to need to focus on rebounding and rebound as a team and consistently make it a point of emphasis, because the team doesn't just have some natural gift to rebound. And I think it's really even all the more, I don't want to say concerning, but it's more illuminating to even look at a team like St. Peter's, who doesn't necessarily have traditional 4s and 5s themselves. They have guys who can shoot from the outside. They're not a huge team down low either, and yet we struggled early in the game to rebound, and we didn't necessarily have a dominant post game. You saw Dylan Harper in the low post make them pay. You saw Somerville really become a force here and there. I think Somerville is going to be a constant developmental thing to watch, and I don't mean that negatively. I mean, he's already very talented. He's already got a ton of stuff going on that's great to see, and he's going to continue to develop and become more and more dominant. And you see him getting there defensively down low with the blocks. You see the way he's able to, his post play, the moves he has down low, just the graceful way he's able to pivot around and get the ball to the rim. I don't really think we've seen at Rutgers. We've seen some really good players here. But I don't know that we've seen a guy who's as naturally skilled with the basketball down low and from moderate range. And even we've seen him flex a little bit from outside. But just a really good player for a big man who has offensive talent for that position we haven't seen. He's going to continue to develop, and I think his dominance in the post and defensively in the post is going to continue to improve. But for now, it's still a work in progress. And so the team's really got to concentrate on how they handle those things with the lack of a true dominant, without even thinking about it, big man. So we had 5 steals. I thought, again, we had only 6 turnovers to St. Peter's 9 turnovers. St. Peter's fouled a heck of a lot. I thought at the end of the game, the refs really made a decision to let the guys play. And I understand that decision. I'd love to see guys play too, but some of the time down there, St. Peter's was in foul trouble, and fouls were just not getting called at really opportune times for Rutgers, where we're trying to put the game away, and fouls are just not being called. And then on the other side, they're getting some fouls, and it's kind of evening out, and they're getting into the bonus, shooting 1s and 1s, and we're in the bonus. And I just thought, it was a little lax at the end by the refs, but hey, you want to let them play, you let them play. St. Peter's is definitely a tough team. They're going to hit you. They're going to make you feel it. They know what they're doing, and they brought their game to Jersey Mike's, and we felt it. 5 blocks for Rutgers to 1 for St. Peter's. 5 steals for Rutgers to 2 for St. Peter's. I thought, again, and Pike said it in his post game, guys were more focused on their lane discipline. They were more aware of where they were supposed to be on the court in the second half defensively. I thought St. Peter's, if you watch them, they were very good defensively at switching off to double teams, and then as the ball moves, moving that double team onto the guys it belonged on. They were effective at concentrating a lot of effort on Dylan Harper. I think you saw how dominant Dillon could be when he just had to will himself to the rim, whether that be the post-up play, whether that be towards the end of the game where he has a beautiful layup down the center lane right into the hoop, and kind of puts us up one, which was huge at the time. And then, he hits his three, and he has some other good facilitations. I think the whole team is a good passing team, specifically the dish out to Martini on the perimeter where he drains the three. I think there's a lot of good offensive movement and good offensive output with this team. But St. Peter's is good enough to kind of keep up with our ball movement. And they were good enough to double team guys and to put a lot of bodies on our most talented players and to keep that pace up even as we tried to move the ball around. And I think in the first half, it kind of stifled us at times. That we were kind of on our heels a little bit and shell-shocked a little because I think this team is so talented. This team is so fluid with the way it moves the ball. And it had been up to this game that when you're going up against a team that plays as hard as St. Peter's does and is able to get on your face both in the perimeter and down low and everywhere in between with multiple guys on the ball and able to switch off as quickly as they were, I think you're going to run into some problems. And I think it took Rutgers, I don't want to say by surprise, but I think they had to adjust to that style of play. And I think they did a much better job in the second half. And it's not like they didn't have offensive output in the first half. They did, and they kept pace, and they went ahead, and then they went behind. And I think the biggest problem in the first half was defensively. They were just a step slower than St. Peter's, and I think they adjusted very well to that in the second half. So to go through, and I mean, even though they're putting that many guys on Harper comes out and still has a 24-point game. So it just goes to show how talented this young man is. And we haven't even seen Ace on the floor at the same time as him yet, other than the exhibition game. So I think we're going to see, it's just going to be something to really take a look at when Ace comes on. Jeremiah Williams, 4 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. Harper's stat line, 6 rebounds, 1 assist. And that's what I'm talking about. You're going to need guys to step up, even who are, perimeter players. You consider them perimeter players. Dylan Harper's a tall guy. He's a gifted athlete. He's going to have to get in there and bang on the boards and participate in the boards because we're going to need all hands on deck trying to collect those rebounds. I was right about Durkak, 6 rebounds, and matches Harper's total for rebounds. And I really thought I saw a big effort from Durkak, especially in the second half, coming down with the ball. And you're going to need guys to just get in there and do that if we're going to want to keep pace with these teams, especially when we get into the Big Ten play and they have legitimately, traditional big men and they're hitting the boards hard. We're going to have to keep up with that. Lathan Somerville, 14 points, 4 rebounds. Somerville, again, he's just a force on the offensive side of the ball, and with the blocks and the defense, he's becoming a force on the defensive side of the ball. The sky's the limit for him. The sky's the limit for him. I think some might even be a little, I don't want to say surprised, but I think the proportion of the offense that he's responsible for is eye-opening. I think, yes, we didn't go out into the portal and get a experienced veteran big man. We weren't able, or we didn't keep Cliff. And I think there's a lot of maybe Monday morning quarterbacking, and there will be depending upon how the season goes. I still think it might have been wise to get a veteran in here, but you can see with the talent of Somerville why you really can't have him on the bench too much. You're starting the games with Agwole, who had 4 rebounds, by the way, respectable, 3 points. And you're starting with him, but then you're going to sub in Somerville, and he's going to see quite a bit of minutes. And just to illustrate that, Agwole plays 10 minutes. Somerville plays 25. Okay, so I don't know how that's going to look as the season goes on as far as the starting 5, but Somerville's getting his minutes. I mean, he's playing 25 minutes. That's the same as Jeremiah Williams at 25. So he's getting starter minutes. Durkak, 25. Harper, 32. Martini, 24. P.J. Hayes played 20 minutes. P.J. Hayes with 5 points, 3 assists, 7 rebounds. So there's a guy who's getting a little less minutes, but still a significant amount, who can score. But even off the score sheet today, he gets 5 points. So it's not blowing the roof off. He has the nice three-pointer. He has, some other shots. He's not blowing the roof off. But he comes down with 7 rebounds, which led the team. And he's got 3 assists. So you're seeing how deep this bench goes. Acuff, 2 points, 1 assist, 2 rebounds. He came in, I thought, steadied the game about a bit. JaMychal Davis played 23 minutes, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. JaMychal brings a defensive energy to the team I like to see. There were a couple times he got beat, especially off the dribble. And obviously he misses that 3-on-1 layup. It was good defense, but he still missed that. I'm really curious to see how the minutes start to stack up and how they start to be divided once Ace comes back and once we get into the meat of the schedule here. I know Pike's experimenting a lot now, and I know we have a very deep bench, and we do have a very deep bench. But it's going to be interesting to see where Pike kind of settles in on the rotation, if he settles in on the rotation. The good news for us is that even when you go deep into the bench, you have guys who have experience, at other teams and at other levels being the leaders and leading scorers on their teams who are now coming here to be deep bench guys. And so it just bodes well overall. There's nobody on that team that comes in that I just legitimately don't trust. That being said, I thought that, a big turning point in the second half of this game, we're up 7 points. And we're really poised to kind of blow the game open. And as we've seen in previous years, we make this massive substitution. And all of a sudden, you're seeing guys that have been facilitating the offense the entire time on the bench at the same time. And you get a whole new bunch of guys. I think there was a time where Harper and Williams are both on the bench. And St. Peter's was able to claw their way back and really take a lead. So that hopefully, and it's been the case with Pike for years, is just kind of experimenting early on in the season. And later on in the season, we won't see that as much. We'll see our rotation kind of in there heavily. And again, we're going to have Ace Bailey, so you're going to have even a deeper rotation up at the top. But, it's going to be interesting to see where we settle in there, because a guy like Abole is starting, but a guy like Somerville's getting starter minutes. And I think that's probably part of the reason why we didn't go out and get a big man. How many minutes are there to go around when you have such a talented young man in Somerville there? He's got to learn on the job, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I mean, he's going to learn on the job and also be a really good player for this team as a freshman. But how much did you have to go around? You couldn't bury him on the bench. He's getting starter minutes. I don't know that he would be the type of player you'd give backup minutes to. He's too talented. And depending who you were bringing in, you're probably looking to bring a guy in for defense and for rebounding more so than scoring, and that is a trade-off. So while there is certainly an argument that the trade-off might have made sense, given where this team tends to struggle so far in the early going, a little bit on the boards, a little bit defensively, but we'll see as the schedule shapes up, as the team grows. This is going to be an interesting season because you're relying on so many young players, but you've mixed them in with so many experienced veterans who have kind of transferred over, transferred up. And that balance is going to be interesting, because when you need to lean on guys who are poised to have that veteran experience, you have them there. But you're relying on the supreme talent of freshmen. And so this season is going to be a perpetual growth journey, right? This team is going to grow right from tip-off against really St. John's, the exhibition, right through the final game of the season, and hoping, obviously, and anticipating that we make the postseason right through the last shot and last second of whatever game we end up in the postseason, because these young guys are going to start learning and to continue to learn through the entire season. And this team, although this may be the only iteration we ever see of this team this year, this team is going to grow the entire season. So what we have right now is not what we're going to see in March. And we can only hope that what we see now, which looks pretty good in a lot of ways, but has a lot of room to grow in other ways, is a much better product, and even better in March, as these guys continue to gel, as the coaching staff continues to figure out combinations that work, as the coaching staff continues to figure out minutes that work, etc. And this is not a one-off with St. Peter's coming in there and playing tough and draining threes and giving us their best shot. This is going to be all season. And this is not only going to be with teams in, lower conferences, but this is going to be with teams in the Power 5. This is going to be teams in conference. This is going to be a constant barrage of attacks all season long. And the team has to be ready for it because there's a bullseye on them this year. And even as they're only ranked number 24, the expectations, the talent, the buzz is so high that everybody knows that. And if they want to keep climbing the rankings, they're going to have to keep winning. Some thoughts on St. Peter's. Randolph, just a very, very talented player. 22 points, 3 rebounds. He played 36 minutes. I thought by far, the most talented player on St. Peter's and was a real problem for Rutgers. They did step up a bit and get out on the perimeter a little bit better in the second half. They cut off lanes a little better. They switched off a little bit better, but they still got to get better at fighting through some of those screens, learning those responsibilities so they don't get beat. And at the end of the day, man, we saw it last year a bit where opposing teams, if they have a shooter, you can't give them space. You got to play up. You got to cut off his lanes, and you can't let him get comfortable back there and let him get into a rhythm because it hurts Rutgers. And this season, if we're going to not be as good of a rebounding team, then you're going to have to know where your guy is, and you're going to have good closing ability. Because if these guys are getting offensive boards, they're going to be able to kick it out to the perimeter, and you better know where that guy is because that guy's going to be able to make you pay from beyond the arc. So a lot to build off of. It's always better to build off of a win than a loss. Rutgers moves to 2-0. They are ranked 24th. They host Monmouth on Friday. I at least plan on. I'm still recovering a little bit from the heart journey and from some other health stuff. I got sick last week, and it's been a little tough for me, but I am still recovering. And I look forward to hopefully being at the game on Friday. I gave my ticket to a buddy yesterday, and he enjoyed himself. So I'm glad. The Rack seemed like the energy was great. The energy should be good all season. I called it the Rack again. Why do I do that? I don't mind Jersey Mike's as a name, but it's still the Rack. It's both Rack / Jersey Mike's, Jersey Mike / the Rack. Monmouth coming off of a loss to they lose to Temple 103-74 last Friday, and so then they lose to Michigan State. They go down 81-57 to open the season. So this is the type of game Rutgers wants to once again try and dominate. Another Jersey game, another local team who wants to come to Jersey Mike's and give us a run for our money. I don't believe Monmouth is quite as good as St. Peter's, but it doesn't mean that they can't give us something to make us think about. So let's hope the guys come out firing. Let's hope that Ace Bailey can play. And I'm really curious to see, if Ogbole starts again. We're still playing these lower conference teams that aren't necessarily as big and as dominant in the post. Does Ogbole get more minutes as we get into the meat of the schedule? Does Somerville continue to develop rapidly? And does he keep those starter minutes? Does he eventually become a starter? How does the lineup change when Ace enters? You would think that Ace would maybe be at that 3 spot, should be at that 3 spot. And who comes out then? Is it Durkak? Is it Harper, Williams, Ace, Martini, Ogbole? Who do you have? Martini coming off the bench? Is Durkak in there? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they figure out the lineup and how the team continues to evolve as the season goes on. But I'm happy we got out of there with a win. I'm happy we saw things we need to work on, especially defensively. I'm happy that the team realized, hey, you're going to have to step up and have a team effort defensively and on the boards if you want to come away comfortably in these games. I'm happy that the team was able to drain free throws, which is a huge part of this thing. And we know we've struggled in the past. Down the stretch, they drained them very well. Martini, a captain, drains 2. And we're going to have to continue to do that as well. So I'm looking forward to the game. I hopefully will see some of you there. Don't hesitate to come up and say hello. We are knee-deep into the basketball season. It's going to be a good one continuing for Rutgers. this year. And we got Kennesaw State on Sunday. No. We have Merrimack coming to Rutgers first. Merrimack's coming to Rutgers next Wednesday. And then we go on the road to Kennesaw State on the following Sunday. And then we got Notre Dame, we got Alabama. So we got a little bit of a murderer's row coming in. I mean, it really gets real very quickly. Because after Kennesaw, you got Notre Dame, you got Alabama, you got Houston. Then you got the Big Ten, Ohio State, you got Penn State. We host Penn State. Then we host Seton Hall. Then after that, you got Princeton. So you got a little Columbia in there. I mean, things get real very quickly. This is a big boy schedule. A lot of people have been asking for a big boy schedule for a long time. Couple more games to figure it out. Couple more games to see what happens. Couple more games to get Ace worked into the lineup. Couple more games to figure out your lineup. And then things get real very fast. It's a very exciting time to be a Rutgers fan. Very exciting time if you love college basketball to have a team like this. Let's hope they continue the momentum. Let's hope they continue to develop because there's still issues there. It's still a young team. And you got to give them room for growth, but there's not a whole lot of time to grow and learn on the job. It gets real fast. So a couple more games to do that. Next one is Friday. If you guys haven't done so, click subscribe on the YouTube channel. It's right here. Just click it. We got to get to 1,000 subscribers. Click subscribe. Make sure you check out some of the other content on the channel. I had an interview with Aaron Brightman about his experience, his ascension as a sports writer, as a Rutgers reporter. And I've got a football preview coming out talking about Maryland, talking a little bit more about the win over Minnesota. So check out the rest of the videos on the channel. Tell a friend, tell a spouse, tell a parent, tell a cousin, tell people about Night Watch with Larry K. and that we're talking Rutgers. We're putting out Rutgers Scarlet Knights content, and I can continue to expand the coverage and expand what we get. The more subscribers we get, the more sponsorships we get. If anybody's out there who knows a sponsor might be interested in sponsoring this channel for a very modest sponsorship, you can sponsor Night Watch. So spread the word. I'll talk to you guys very soon. Thanks again for listening. Larry K. out.